Hey, welcome back, everyone. If you're like me and the writing on my sweater is going to distract you because you're wondering what it says, "You can't scare me. I have a beautiful daughter," which I do. I'm glad you're back. We're going to jump right in. We talked last time. I was sick. I probably dragged it out more than I could have, should have. Didn't keep the pace up. Jacob was promised by God the day he left home that God was going to bring him back safe and sound to his homeland, gave him the blessing of Abraham. When he was away, married, and about to return, God again told him that he was going to take him back safe and sound to his homeland. So it wasn't a matter of Jacob not knowing. It was a matter of Jacob not believing. And he didn't believe because the pressure of his past was too much. In other words, it was like a struggle between, I know God said this, but this is what I'm feeling and this is what I've done, and I don't see how God can. So I've gotten some messages back from some of you as this channel has started. The feedback's been amazing. And some of you have said exactly what I knew was going on for many of you, and that is that I left, I did some bad things, I didn't think I could come back. Or I did some bad things, then I left, didn't think I could come back. Or, and the stories are varied, and so on and so forth, but at the end of the day, there's something inside of you, inside of your mind, your thinking, holding you back, and I want to focus today on, I'm going to show you biblically that isn't true. It's true that you feel that way, but it's not true that you can't come back. In fact, Jesus simply said, anyone who comes to me, I will never cast away. Never. So I woke up last week, Friday morning, with these verses on my mind, which I hadn't read for at least weeks, if not more. And it's right back at the beginning of the Bible. So Adam and Eve created in chapter 1, more details in chapter 2, and then in chapter 3 we find Eve going to the tree that God told him not to go to, not to eat from. And she does, and she gives some to Adam, and he takes some. And for a brief amount of time, there's some excitement and some euphoria, and then that quickly gives way to guilt and shame and foreboding. And then chapter 3 tells us that they heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and they ran and they hid. Then Jesus calls out to them, and in the very short space of time, he asks 3 questions. And we're going to look at those questions. This one's video is not going to be long. It's not going to be complicated. But if you can grasp it, it is profoundly powerful. First question Jesus asks, where are you? You see, every time Jesus had come to see them before, they were eager to come out and meet him. But this time when he comes, they're nowhere to be found. You know, if I came home and the dogs didn't come running to see me, I would immediately know something's off, something's wrong. Like, where are they? Well, when Jesus came, they weren't there to welcome him. Where are you? Something's wrong. Where are you? Now, you got to remember, this is Jesus. He doesn't need to be told where they are. He knows where they are. Jesus doesn't need to be told where you are. He knows where you are. So even if you avoid church or friends from church or anything of the sort, he knows where you are, which is actually good news, which we'll see. So they come out, and their excuse or reason that they give, excuse probably a bad word, we were naked, so we hid ourselves. Now, prior to this, they had felt this sense of nakedness, and it says that they had sewed fig leaves together to cover themselves. So if they were covered, then why are they still hiding because they're naked? Because they're not naked. Second question Jesus asks, who told you that you were naked? The second question Jesus asks is, who told you that you were naked? Who implies there is some other person being in this whole scenario who inserted an idea into them, and Jesus wants to know, where did that come from? Now again, Jesus doesn't need to be told where it came from because he knows. So the where are you was asked to draw them out back into his presence. And the second question, who told you, is designed to create in them an awareness that this idea is not their own. Who told you? And then to answer the question for them, or to help them see the answer to the question, his third question is, have you eaten from the tree? You say, well, okay, big deal. What's your point? Where are you? Who told you that you're naked? Because that's the reason you gave for why you weren't here, why you didn't come. Like, you're staying away from me because you're naked. Who told you that? Who put something in your mind that's keeping you away from me? Who did that? Have you eaten from the tree? In other words, the one you met in the tree is the one who planted the idea in your mind that you can't come to me anymore. See how it works? So we do something that we're not supposed to do. That something gives Satan access to us that he didn't have before on a level that he couldn't access before. And once he gets that access, he starts giving messages. And the number one message that he wants to send to you is, you can't go to Jesus. Because of what you've done, because of who you are, because of the consequences of what you've done, you can't go to him. You need to stay away from him. He won't have you anymore. Jesus is still asking those questions today. Where are you? Who told you that you're not fit to come into my presence? Who told you that? Have you been eating with the one that I told you to stay away from? You see, the Bible says Satan is the accuser of the brethren. He accuses them before God day and night. He doesn't just accuse us before God, he accuses us to ourselves. Who do you think you are? Where do you think you're going? Where do you think you're going to end up? You can't go back to him. Look what you did. You knew you weren't supposed to, and you did. Who do you think you're fooling now? My favorite author describes the nakedness that Adam and Eve felt as not a physical nakedness. And we actually know that's true from the text because they covered the physical nudity and they still didn't come to Jesus because of their nudity. So the covering didn't cover whatever the problem was. Because the problem wasn't on the outside, it was on the inside. And isn't that always the case? And isn't religion, generally speaking, all of it outside of Christianity and most of it inside of Christianity, designed to deal with the outside? In fact, Jesus' accusation, one of the many in Matthew 23, when he gets down and serious with the religious leaders, he starts out by saying, you won't enter the kingdom and you won't let anybody else enter either. And then he goes on to call them whitewashed tombs who are beautiful on the outside and full of dead men's bones on the inside. They're like a cup that's clean on the outside and filthy on the inside. And religion focuses on the outside. Don't do this and don't wear this and wear this and do this and don't. But what about what's really going on? We can walk in sometimes, sit down, sing the songs, pray, do church, leave, and still there's a barrier between us and the experience with God we could have had. We get up in the morning and we rush off and we do our thing, and we're constantly feeling a separation, a wall, a barrier between us and God that doesn't need to be there, but it is. My favorite author calls it a nakedness of soul. In other words, Adam and Eve felt exposed, like we've done this thing and we can't fix it and we can't hide it, and we feel like every time we go anywhere, everyone sees. Years ago, I met someone, a friend of a friend, and I don't even know how the conversation went there. I guess sometimes being a pastor kind of precipitates that. Whatever. Anyways, we get into the conversation of this person had grown up not in church, but then had got introduced to it through friends and ended up working at a church camp with them and ended up going to church school with them, joined the church, and then she got pregnant before she was married. And that was the thing that put up the wall. And as she's telling me her story, she says, I've tried to go back. And when I go back, I can feel people looking at me and judging me. And I can't claim wisdom or insight for what I said to her. I just kind of heard it coming out. I'm like, are you sure that when you go, it's the people looking at you and judging you? Or is it you looking at you and judging you? Are you sure that the voice that's condemning you is coming from the outside? Or is it something that's been planted and it's coming from inside you? Who told you that you were naked? Have you been to the tree? Satan would love for you to continue to believe that whatever it is that you've done, maybe it's just that you've been away too long and you can't go back. Whatever reason he's found to get inside you and to repeat the message, you can't. It's not true. It's simply not true. And Jesus is so in love with you that even if you stay away from him, he's not going to stay away from you. To me, one of the most encouraging things in the whole Bible story is that when Adam and Eve sinned at the very beginning, it's Jesus who came after them. Where are you? Who told you that you couldn't come to me? You've been to the tree, haven't you? I just want to encourage you. We all have a thought life. And there are thoughts, you know it. There are thoughts that come into your mind. You're like, where in the world did that come from? But there are other thoughts that are a lot more subtle and we believe them. The voice that tells you that you can't come to Jesus, it's a lie. The voice that tells you that your shame, your nakedness of soul is too much, it's a lie. As soon as they confessed to Jesus what the issue was, he made clothes and he covered them. And then he made a promise that he was going to crush the one who inhabited the tree. And he was going to fix things. It's been a long story since then. A lot of ups and downs. And sometimes it's tempting to believe this resolution will never come. But it's as true as it's ever been. And I want to encourage you. I'm not speaking to you as one who hasn't made mistakes. There is as much to expose in my story as there could ever be in yours. You can come to Jesus. no matter how you feel, come to Jesus. Where are you? Who told you? Have you been to the tree? I'm here. Let's start fixing this. We'll see you next time.